Hi guys, welcome to chapter 14. We're going to cover the digestive system and the excretory system in chapter 14. Section A is all about nutrition. Okay, so the digestive system breaks down food, but there's certain kinds of foods that we need to eat more than others. Our bodies need 6 different nutrients, okay, 6 essential nutrients, and a balanced diet should provide all of those nutrients for us, okay? So the first of those is carbohydrates. You probably hear a lot of negative things about carbohydrates, no carb diets, things like that. That's because there's 2 different types of carbohydrates. There's what's known as simple carbohydrates. That's things like sugars, and those are smaller. So carbohydrates are made of chains of carbon. Okay, let me draw that for you. Okay, so you're going to have multiple carbons kind of bonded together. Different amounts of them, okay? Organic compounds are usually made of carbon. The simple carbohydrates are smaller. They're smaller molecules, okay? So they don't take as much energy to digest. This is why if you eat a lot of sugar, you feel hungry again very rapidly. If you eat a lot of simple carbohydrates, it doesn't fill you up very long, okay? The complex carbohydrates, though, those are much healthier. That's the things like whole grain. And I don't know about you, when I was a kid, I didn't like whole grain bread. I liked white bread. But white bread is the less healthy carbs that people talk about. If you eat whole grain stuff, it's a more complex carbohydrate. It's a much larger chain of carbon, and it takes more for your body to digest that. So it actually helps make you feel full longer, okay? Now, part of what we're going to talk about today is that we need all of these. So you do need carbs in your diet. You shouldn't eliminate them altogether, but try to stick to the complex carbohydrates instead of the simple carbohydrates. If you eat too many carbohydrates, too many simple particularly, your body will convert those into fat and store them. And so that's where the carbs get a bad name. Too much sugar, too much simple carbohydrates tends to make people gain weight, right? Next nutrient is protein. Protein helps you feel full. So if you are trying to get a meal that sticks with you for a while, a high protein meal does that. If you're trying to bulk up and put muscle mass on, you need a lot of protein to be able to do that. You find protein in things like meat, eggs, beans, cheese actually has quite a bit of protein in it. And that stuff actually makes you feel full longer because it takes your body a longer time to digest, okay? Believe it or not, you do need fats in your diet as well. You should stick with healthier fats. Avocados have a very healthy kind of fat in them that's good for you. So there's more positive fats than others. The unsaturated fats are considered not as unhealthy as the saturated fats. Saturated fats are the things that are solid at room temperature. So like the fat on steak, the fat that is found in like some dairy products, those are typically solid at room temperature. The fat that comes from animal products, things that have like high cholesterol in them, those are typically the saturated fats, and those are pretty unhealthy. So it doesn't mean don't have them at all. It means really moderate. You shouldn't have steak every single day. You shouldn't have bacon every single day, even though it's amazing. Every once in a while, it's okay. The unsaturated fats, those are our oils, okay? They're typically liquid at room temperature, and they're not as bad. There's some oils that are healthier than others. Coconut oil, olive oil, there's a bunch of trends around the different oils, but the unsaturated fats are not as unhealthy as the saturated fats, okay? Then we get into stuff that's a little harder to find. It's a little harder to think about, okay? Vitamins and minerals. Vitamins are in a lot of our fruits and vegetables. You can take a daily vitamin too, but if you notice on the bottle of the vitamins, it'll talk about like 3,000% of your daily allotted need. That's because the vitamins we get from actual pill form, it's a lot harder for our body to process it. That has to go through the liver first, and it's not as useful to our bodies. It's better than nothing, but it's not as useful. The natural vitamins we can get from fruits and vegetables are much easier for our body to put to use, okay? Minerals like calcium and potassium are also found in different foods. Obviously, you've probably been told your whole life, drink your milk to build strong bones. That's where we get things like calcium. Potassium is in bananas, and those just have different roles and different reactions in our bodies. Okay. And then water. Water doesn't have any nutritional value to it. It doesn't have calories. It's not, it's harder to think of it as a nutrient. And yet you will die much faster if you don't have water than if you don't have food. So in order for your body to function, there's just a ton of chemical reactions taking place. When you digest all this, all the food, and you get these nutrients, those nutrients are going into different chemical reactions. Those reactions can't happen if you don't have enough water in your body. So if you become dehydrated, your body really starts to shut down. So water is absolutely essential for life because it is essential for those chemical reactions to occur. Okay. So I want to tell you something that you can try at home with these different carbohydrates. So starch is a complex carbohydrate. If you get a saltine cracker and brush as much of the salt off of it as possible, that's a starch. That's a complex carbohydrate. Put it in your mouth and you start chewing it. The saliva in your mouth is actually going to start breaking those chains of carbohydrates apart. Okay. So as those long chains of carbons are being broken down into shorter chains, those shorter chains are actually different types of sugars. Okay. So as you chew the cracker and chew it well beyond when you're ready to swallow it, it's going to start tasting a little bit sweet. It's not going to get like a spoonful of sugar sweet, but it will start to taste a little sweeter in your mouth because your mouth is already starting to digest it. The saliva is starting to digest it and break it up into smaller pieces. So fun for you to do at home. All right, so let's talk about a balanced diet. It is all about balance. This site right here, when I grew up, we had this thing called the food pyramid. What we've got now is this thing called My Plate, and it's a good website. You can go check it out, and there's lots of different pointers there and different suggestions for food to eat. But this plate literally shows you about the amounts of a plate that you should be spending, like a proportion on these different nutrients. Okay. So you can see fruits and vegetables should make up half of your plate. Protein, only about a quarter, grains about a quarter, and that should be the complex carbohydrates, those kind of grains. And then dairy, you should have dairy. There's a lot of important minerals with the dairy. Okay. So our food is measured by calories, and what a calorie is it's the amount of energy needed to heat water, by a degree or something, and it's this weird kind of definition. But since food contains energy, we measure food in calories. Okay. Now you need a certain amount of calories for just your basic function. If you don't get enough calories, you're going to be really weak and your body is going to go into starvation mode. As teenagers, you guys need more calories than I do as an adult because you guys are still growing. And so those calories become the raw materials. They become the Legos to make your bodies taller and bigger. There's a balance between exercise and calories. Okay. You expend a certain amount of calories each day. You use a certain amount of energy that kind of equals a certain number of calories each day. If you're putting more calories into your body than you're burning, you're going to gain weight. You guys are growing, and so that's okay. That gained weight is actually helping you build a bigger body, not a bigger body this way, but a bigger body that way. When you get older, though, and you're not getting taller anymore, you need to make sure that you're burning more calories than you're putting into your body. That's how people get overweight, because they continue to put more calories into their body than they're actually burning off. And that extra food gets stored as fat. Okay. And fat reserves are okay if you don't have too many of them. That actually then gets digested first if for some reason your body isn't getting enough calories. The fat is what gets it's like a pantry of food for your body. It's like stored energy. Okay. Exercise is good anyway, but that balance. For a teenager, it's probably about 2,200 calories a day is roughly 22 to 2,500. Boys get a little bit more. They tend to grow a little more muscle mass and they grow taller bodies than girls for the most part in general. Okay. Like I said, it's all about balance. These diets that give you all of one kind of food or cut out a whole type of nutrient aren't they're okay short term, but long term you need fats, you need carbohydrates. It's okay to eat something with a lot of sugar in it. It's okay to eat something with too much fat in it, as long as you don't make it a habit. Okay, balance it out. Obesity is an actual medical term. Obesity is if somebody's body mass index is over 30. It's on a scale of 1 to 100. And your body mass index is kind of a ratio between your height and your weight. And so when you go to the pediatrician and they talk about where you are in the percentile for height and weight, what they're kind of doing is they're looking at your predicted height and weight for your age and then your weight compared to your height. So if you are not very tall and weigh a lot, chances are that means you are overweight, potentially even into the obesity side of things because your body mass index is too high. Okay. Now, there's a couple of extreme kind of eating disorders that go along with not having a balanced diet and not being healthy. Being obese is not healthy, but being too thin is unhealthy as well. Okay, so anorexia is when people don't put enough calories into their body, like extremely, like maybe they're only putting like 3, 4, 500 calories into their body. They're basically starving themselves. Your body needs a certain amount of calories to function, and your body will start breaking down muscle if it's not getting enough energy. There's a lot of protein in muscle. When we eat meat, we're eating muscle. And so your body will actually start breaking down its own muscle cells if it's not getting enough calories. And your heart is a muscle, and so you can actually have a heart attack if you are a severe anorexic. Another eating disorder is bulimia. This is when somebody eats a ton of food. They eat whatever they want, a ton of it, but then they make themselves throw up so that the food doesn't actually get digested and the calories don't actually stick around. I don't know about you, but I hate throwing up. And there's actually a lot of serious medical problems to somebody that throws up too much because the stomach acids are actually coming into your throat and into your mouth, and it can actually cause a lot of scary problems there. Both of these are examples of eating disorders that really need a lot of counseling. Okay, the people really don't see an accurate image of themselves. As a society, we need to help people not put quite as much pressure on weight and body image. The extremes are bad. Too much weight is not healthy. Too little weight is not healthy either. Okay. All right. So here's just another example of the MyPlate, and it gives you some pictures. Obviously, fruits and vegetables are pretty easy to determine. The kind of quick rule of thumb is if it has seeds, it's a fruit. If it doesn't, it's a vegetable. The green leafy vegetables, if you don't like salads, you're gonna have a problem with this, are very rich in vitamins and minerals, lots of vitamins in fruits and vegetables. The grains, there's our breads and our cereals, stick to the whole grains, okay? And then protein, we find protein in a lot of things. In meat, meat has a ton of protein, but if you're a vegetarian, you can get a lot of protein in beans and legumes and soy products like tofu, eggs, which depending on what kind of vegetarian, if you're a vegan, you don't eat eggs, but eggs are very high in protein. What else? Cheese has some protein in it. So that's just some examples. Okay, let's talk about food labels. If you're at home, check out a food label and kind of learn how to read it. The biggest thing you need to look at with a food label is the serving size, okay? And it's usually pretty small, probably smaller than you expect. I don't actually know what kind of food these food labels are, but if you look at a box of cereal, it'll tell you the serving size is only 3/4 of a cup. This is a measuring cup, okay? This top line is a full cup. 3/4 of a cup is just down there. I don't know about you, but I've never had that small of a bowl of cereal before. So they put the calories in the biggest font, And it's like, oh, sweet, one serving size, 230 calories. All right, I'm going to dump a huge bowl of this, and there's my serving size. It's like, no, no, no. It's not your serving size. It's what they've measured out. So pay attention to that, okay? Usually it will tell you that this is based on a 2,000 calorie a day diet. And then it gives you the amount of grams of the different nutrients and things like sodium. You don't want too much sodium. That's like salts in the food. And it gives you the percentage of the daily value. Okay. If you look at cereal again, it'll give you the calories with and without milk. So there's just a lot to be aware of. If you get one of the little pints of Ben and Jerry's from the grocery store, that's like 4 servings, okay? So there's just a ton of calories in an entire pint. If you sit down and polish off a pint by yourself, you're putting in a lot of calories, a lot of sugar, a lot of fat into your body all at once, okay? The other thing with the labels is the ingredient list. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the ingredients are listed in order of amount. So the first ingredients listed are the ones that are they're the most plentiful ingredient. Okay, so whatever this is, it's mostly water and then 2 different types of sugar. Okay, corn syrup is a type of sugar. Then we've got milk protein concentrate and vegetable oil and cocoa. At least I can pronounce those. You get down to the bottom, and that's where all these that's where all these weird like preservatives and flavorings and magnesium sulfate and copper sulfate, and it's like, am I doing a chemistry experiment or am I eating a snack? I don't know. But we can see some vitamins as well. Not bad. Anyway, just understand that the ingredients are listed in order of amount. The first ingredients are what there's the most of. Okay. All right, that's it for what you're putting into your bodies.